Ole Miss fans need a hotel for the game weekend? Many OTAs keep all the commissions, but at Fan Plans, you still get your loyalty points, receive direct confirmation from the hotel, and you support Rebel Grove. Visit fanplans.com/Rebel Grove today.
Welcome into another edition of the Mason Brooks Show presented by The Rogue. I'm Neil McCready. That is Ole Miss offensive lineman Mason Brooks back from Atlanta, or Hotlanta as they call it, for a number of reasons, including temperature. We'll get to that momentarily. Ole Miss goes to Georgia Tech, wins 42-0. The Rebels improve to 3-0 on the season. They'll play host to Tulsa this weekend. The Golden Hurricane is 2-1 after beating Jacksonville State last night in Tulsa. So we'll talk about all of those things. Ole Miss up to I just looked at it a minute ago. I think number 16 in the Associated Press top 25. SEC pretty well represented. Obviously Georgia, Alabama, Kentucky, Arkansas, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Texas A&M, all in the Associated Press AP, or whatever it's called, AP Associated Press top 25. Mason, how are you?
Great. How are you? Good to see you. I know you're moving and shaking, so I know you're a little gassed, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm running. I'm fully energized, but I've got my head's going in about 17 directions. So I just realized that I not only said AP Associated Press, which is the same thing, I said it twice. So I'm doubling up on errors these days.
You're good. We won't hold it against you. You're good.
If it's the worst thing I do today, then I'm
it's a good day.
I'm probably having a good day. Before we get rolling, and before I forget, we're brought to you by The Rogue. It's your destination for fine men's clothing. Their stylists hand-select pieces from top designers, from works to lifestyle to nightlife. There's the perfect something for everyone at The Rogue. All the best items from Peter Millar, Martin Dingman, Jack Victor, Halsey, True Grit, so many more. The Rogue has delivered fine men's clothing for 55 years or so. Their classic style, attention to detail, commitment to excellent service continues to make The Rogue a special place to shop. So visit them at 4450 I-55 North in Jackson, or at therogue.com. The trip to Atlanta was certainly successful on the field. I know for you played some right guard. I saw you in the first half at right guard, and then I got back to my hotel and I looked up and you were playing looked like left tackle.
Yeah, we were mixing it up. Coach came over to me and he said, "Hey, I'm putting you in a left tackle from here on out." And I was like, "All right." I haven't played left tackle in a couple of years, but I played a little bit in camp, and so I was like, "Let's go mix it up." He said, "I'm putting Preston Cushman, the freshman, next to you, and
I saw that.
Y'all go figure it out." So we figured it out, and took a couple sets. Looked at the stands for my dad to kind of give him the eyes. I'm about to go in and play left tackle, and we were rolling. But no, it was a great game, really fun. So
there was a play, and look, I mean, full disclosure here. I try to be transparent. I was at a tailgate at the University of Arkansas with my youngest daughter, and then we went to a tailgate with my older daughter, and it was hot, and we were moving around, and there was different TVs, and people were talking, and I was being introduced to people, and I was trying to keep an eye on the game. And by the time I got back to my hotel where I could look at the game, the score was 8-0, and it looked like a whole. It was whatever. So I was doing the best I could, and that probably wasn't good enough for some people, but I tried, damn it. There was one play, and I think it was second quarter. You were at right guard, and Micah Pettis was at right tackle.
Yeah, where we just kind of parted the seas, and Bentley ran behind us. Is that what you're talking about?
I'm 52. I'm about 6'1". I'm actually a shade under 200, like 199 point something, but that counts. I probably don't run a 4-something 40 the way those guys do. I'm just guessing, but hey, no one's put a timer on me, so I'm not, who knows, right? I don't think I would have scored on that play, but I would have picked up 15 yards. I mean, the hole was no, I would have.
That thing was massive.
Someone would have
turned around after that play. He scored. I Bentley scored, and I turned around after the play because the linebacker said something to me, and I didn't even hear what he said, but I just turned around and I was like, that was the biggest hole I might have ever made in my career. There's no way you're talking right now at all. And I was just laughing, man. It was fun. It was a ground game, and when you can go on the road like that and just put it on a team on the ground. I mean, coach was saying before the game, pack our run game, and he challenged the O-line in the hotel. He said, I want to see y'all, finish in the run game, and it was a ground game, and some of the receivers might not have loved that, but it was a field day for the O-line and the running backs, which is always fun for us. So
I was going to say it looked like other than it being really hot, it looked like being a really fun day to be an offensive lineman because look, I don't like the Q word because I'm not out there, and I don't like to use that word about people and say a team quit or a team rolled over or any of that, because who am I to say? Because I'm not out there playing, right? But it looked like
no, they quit. It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say
you can feel when the air kind of leaves the stadium, and after that, I'm telling you, that first drive when we just punched it right down and scored, like right then you could feel the air kind of just dissipate out of the stadium, and I was like, there was a little bit of a hesitation on the forward backward pass, but we stalled a little bit. There's some things we need to brush up on. Lane. The thing I love about playing for Lane is like we could beat a team by 100, we could beat a team by 2. Like someone's getting ripped, and we're starting right over. But I mean, that's what you want out of your coach. You don't want to be celebrating, going crazy. Every week when you have an opportunity the next week to win another game. So
it's interesting you say that, because I was watching Tom Brady's documentary on ESPN, Man in the Arena, and they were doing the episode. I'm not finished with it, but I think it's the episode where they lose. They're 19-0 and they lose to the Giants in the Super Bowl. But they're talking about that season where they're just dominating everybody. And if anybody ever watches NFL, nobody dominates the NFL, right? I mean, it's just everybody's a pro. Nobody dominates. And they were talking about how on Mondays when they would go in to watch film after winning on Sunday, they all started wearing a T-shirt that on the back of it said "Humble Pie," because Bill Belichick was going to find something wrong in that film and just light them up. And they talked about how they kind of loved that. That was their culture. And, watching Kiffin yesterday, I thought, he's scowling on the sideline and he looks sort of miserable, and you guys are up 24-0 or 35-0 or whatever it was at the time. I guess it'd be 28-0, and then 35-0. And I thought that's what he's doing. He's building culture. Hey, we're at work. We'll celebrate when the game's over, but during the game, let's get our work in. And I thought that's what great coaches do.
I love that. I mean, I may be biased, but in high school, my team was really good. I lost 2 games in high school my whole career. Like we were a powerhouse when I was in high school. But what I loved so much about my high school coach was, like, we would be beating a team like that, 55-0 or whatever, and like he was still on us. And it was the same general attitude with Coach Helton in my last school, and that was a big reason. People ask me, why'd you pick Ole Miss, this, that. Lane's attitude and the character that he has instilled into the school, that just kind of chippy, blue collary, with a hint of humor, because I'm a humor guy too, and I like when he mixes it up. But like, let's go, and then that's Coach Thornton, that's Coach Nix, that's Coach Partridge. He hired Coach Crum, who was at my last school, who was just like that. And just when you have a bunch of coaches that are like-minded like that, it really helps to push, the players along. So that's always great to see. So I'm super happy with, how we're being coached. It's good when you like how you're being. Let me rephrase that. It's not always the funnest way to be coached. In fact, it's often not the funnest way to be coached, and it's very frustrating. But reaping some of the rewards throughout the week make it worth it. So
it's interesting you use the word blue collar, because I think there's this image of Kiffin and Ole Miss as flashy, and Lane gets off the bus and he's dressed to the T and all that stuff, and he kind of lets you guys be yourselves. I know you wear your cowboy hat and all of those things. And so there's this, from the outside, you'd think, oh, those are kind of flashy guys, kind of maybe even prima donna, maybe Hollywood a little bit. And yet you're right, on the field, you guys are kind of taking on a blue collar personality. Offensively, you guys like to road grade. Defensively, that's a really physical defense. They bring it, they hit.
Are you kidding me? Did you watch, dude? They're and like Tulsa's a good team. I mean, they throw the rock around, and I'm excited because I think our secondary like is due for some throw some deep balls on our secondary and see what happens. I've been like the defense. I knew the defense was good, but I've been every week I've just been so happy seeing those guys ball. I mean, you see it too. I mean, you as a someone in the stands. I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, and we haven't arrived. I don't like talking like we've arrived or whatever, but the defense is playing at a high level, and that's great to see.
So. No, it really is. No, it's. I wrote yesterday that, I mean, if what you are at the end of the day is a team that runs the ball effectively and plays that kind of defense, that's not the worst identity to have. Those are two elements of football that rarely take a day off. That aren't impacted by the weather. That if it's pouring down rain and the wind's blowing 40 miles an hour, it's hard to go slinging around 60 times. I mean, you've got to be able to have that part of your personality. You talk about not arriving, and you're right. You guys have beaten Troy and Central Arkansas and Georgia Tech, and that's no fault of your own. That's who's appeared in front of you to this point. But from a confidence standpoint, are you starting to? I mean, I know you had high hopes all along. Is confidence growing a little bit that, hey, we might even be a little better than we thought we were? We've got a lot of work to do, a lot to prove. Haven't played an SEC game yet. You're 0-0 in the SEC. Again, those days are coming, but you haven't played those games yet. But you haven't accomplished anything. You haven't won anything. Nobody's handing you a title. But are you starting to think that at this point, we might be a little better than we thought?
I just like seeing the flashes in the pan. Not flashes in the pan. It's a bad analogy. I like seeing the sparks of Malik Heath and like doing the right thing, like going back in and spotting the ball. It's when guys execute at a nuanced level in games where we're winning by X amount that excites me, because when you get it on the wire and like Kentucky, not looking ahead too far, but they're a damn good football team. And so is everyone in the SEC. Like, the way I look at it, coming from where I'm from, like, there's no easy opponent in the SEC. I don't care what anyone says. There's no easy opponent, period. Like, you've seen that. We talked about that last week. Everyone comes, they suit up, and they're ready to play. But when you can execute at a small level, especially when you're ahead, it does get me excited, because the discipline carries good teams into great teams. And the little things are what separate good teams from the great teams, because everyone in the SEC is good. They just are. And especially coming from where I'm from, everybody's good. And everyone has skill. And so it comes down to executing, winning the turnover margin, doing the little things right, so that we're in an opportunity to have the ability to hang in those games, to win those games, to be dominant in those games. So confidence is raising, but confidence is raising not just from the win. It's raising from the little things that we're doing correctly that are translating into wins. And that's what I want to see continue down the road. And that's what Lane's been harping on. And so, like, practice on Tuesday, are we doing the little things right? And walkthroughs on Thursday, are we doing the little things right? Like, it's not a pick and choose thing. And so that's what I'm confident in this team, is that I like that we're not picking and choosing. Guys are showing up to work on Tuesday, when it's hot in the afternoon, or, it's noon or whatever, and you're hot, and we're in the last period of practice and we're throwing the rock around and guys are still giving maximum effort. That's what I like, being a part of. So, speaking
of hot, I wasn't there obviously, but I've been in Atlanta in September, and it can be pretty muggy and hot. And I've always heard people tell me, Mason, that field at Bobby Dodd Stadium where Georgia Tech plays is hot. Like, they use that word like different than normal heat. You just got through playing on it. What can you tell me about it?
Okay, so I'm from Texas, so I'm kind of used to like the heat and the turf, where the turf melts into your cleats. I've been there. When we got out there, first off, Coach told me it's the most level field in America. I guess because it's an engineering school. They have that's why it's called the flats, because it's the most flat field you'll ever play on. I don't know how that affects the heat, but I do remember looking down at the turf next to Altmaier and being like, the turf is brown. That's weird. And I was like, well, maybe it won't be as hot. But as soon as we got out there, it was hot. And so I was like, it's clearly not the case. So I picked it up because the other guys were picking it up. And Reese is like, oh, it's oyster shells. And I was like, oyster shells. And then Luke's like, no, it's coconut. It's coconut shells. And it's like grainy, like coconut shell. And I was like, I guess it's coconut shell. And we started playing it, and like, I swear it like holds heat in, and then it's like rubbing on all our pants and stuff. Like, if you look at the pictures, we wore all white, which was, it looked really good. It was very icy, but not great to wear on a coconut shell field, apparently, because like everyone's spattings were brown and like our jerseys were brown. And so it was just steamy. Like, it's just like exuding heat off the field. And so that was definitely an interesting experience playing on coconut. That was probably the first and last time I want to play on coconut. So
but holy hell, you'd rather be ahead 42-0 than down 42-0 in those conditions. Oh my God.
Yeah. No, freaking Miles Battle was unpacking his pads this morning and started sneezing like crazy. And everyone's like, "Are you good?" He's like, "Yeah, it's my pads are making me sneeze." And he's like, "I think I'm allergic to coconuts." So he's a strict no coconut guy from here on out. So that was pretty cool.
Last thing, you mentioned Tulsa. First, before we get to Tulsa, I want to tell you we are also brought to you by Liston and Dees. It's a full-service law firm located in Ridgeland, Mississippi. It focuses on complex civil litigation. Liston and Dees' clients include individuals, businesses, and state governments throughout the United States. So you got Tulsa coming to town. The last of the non-league games. After that, it's Kentucky, then Vanderbilt, then Auburn, then away you go into the SEC. Tulsa's off to a good start. They lost double overtime at Wyoming, but otherwise they're a team that, unlike some of the teams you guys have played, they have some high-powered offense. Their defense felt like they had a pretty good game yesterday against Jacksonville State. So you're playing a confident team that's going to come in looking to spoil. So you know that going in. Is it kind of like you talked about? You're kind of ready to. You guys are ready to kind of keep getting tested. Is the kind of vibe I'm sort of picking up from talking to people.
Right. I think like the different opportunities that playing Tulsa brings, and like you said, the high-powered offense and the run stoppy mixed with their secondary on defense, it presents different challenges. The defensive front, the way it's structured as well. When you get to see different stuff like that early in the season, it allows you to be ready for that, where later in the season, you're not trying to adjust to a 3-down or, they got their backers stacked in a different alignment, or the way that they're playing their coverages, or, we've played run team. And then, here comes this team that airs it out, and, we got to try to cover all these cats. I think when you're looking at not the opponent and more what the opponent brings to the table, it just helps you to really grow from each game. Like you said, though, they beat a good Jacksonville State team. Honestly, Jacksonville State, FCS team, whatever. Like they've won games this year. They're a good team. They beat Florida State last year. It's not a slouch program. Like you said, overtime against Wyoming. They had a close game with somebody else.
They beat Northern Illinois in a close game.
Northern Illinois, who was working Vandy this weekend. So I think that they're a good team. And I think a lot of the guys are excited. Really, just to get the vibe today in the lift, at least I was concerned, was guys are already like ready to get back in the building and start game prepping, which I love. That's what I love, about here and about this team so far, is just nobody really dwells on like wins. I get all juiced still just because I know how hard wins are to come by, and I'm not saying that the guys here aren't used to winning or not used to winning, but I do like the ability of everyone to shift gears here. Like it's headed by the staff, but it's great because you just get right into the next game, and how do we win this game, and how do we dominate this game. So I hope we keep that energy going, because that's really fun to be a part of.
Yeah, the process of winning leads to more winning because the
Yes.
focus is on the process.
They said the best thing about going 3-0 is the ability to go 4-0. Instead of just looking back, like let's look at how we can dominate this week and dominate, tomorrow and dominate the next hour. When you break it up into sections like that, it's a lot.
Last thing you were saying, people came up to you in Atlanta and acknowledged you're becoming a multimedia star here.
Multimedia star. No, it's nice. Some fans came up to me in Atlanta and, made some comments about how they watched the show. And it's nice that, people are tuned in, and I hope that I give people an insight, with your excellent navigating skills of my personality. I hope I give people a real insight on what, this team is like and what it's like to come in here and be, a part of something and a culture that's so much bigger than me, and the ability to, wear this across my chest. And, there's all kinds of different stuff that happens that people don't get to see. And it's so special. And so to be able to share just a little bit of that with the fan base that supports us and supports me is awesome. So it's cool to see the fruits of that. So that's exciting for sure.
Well, I appreciate the time. I enjoy this every week. I think you're really good at it. It's a lot of fun to talk to you. I get the same feedback. People talk to me all the time about how much they like you, and they've enjoyed getting to know you and your perspectives, knowing that you've played at a different level and now you're playing at this level and all of that. So good luck this week as you guys get ready for Troy. It's a 3:00 game, SEC Network at Vaught Hemingway Stadium, Tulsa, and Ole Miss. So we'll get back next week. We'll talk about the Tulsa game, and we'll turn the corner to the start of SEC play. A top 10 team as of right now, Kentucky, headed to town on October the 1st for what certainly shapes up 12, 13 days out as a massive, huge game in Oxford between the Wildcats and the Rebels. But we'll get to all that next Sunday. Until then, Mason, take care. Good luck to you.
Thanks, Neil. Have a good one. Get some rest.
I'll try. And again, we're brought to you by The Rogue, 4450 I-55 North in Jackson, or therogue.com. For Mason Brooks, I'm Neil McCready. Talk to you next week.